Hi, my name is Miliana, a female entrepreneur passionate about inspiring other females in creating a life they love and sovereignty, while developing businesses with a positive impact. I grew up on a small farm surrounded by cows, sheep, chickens, dogs, cats, and nature. That's where I learned that a natural, sustainable way is sometimes the best way. I think it is how our modern world can heal itself from the inside out. I strive to do what makes me happy, work with people that inspire, and share some of these moments with you.
Hi, thank you so much for joining me for yet another Fruitful Talk. Welcome, Jessie, to Fruitful Talk. It's such a pleasure to have you. You really do a lot for the community and especially with your businesses. So I would love for you to share your story. Could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Jessie Fahay. I'm the founder and the executive director of Ripple Effect Artists, which is this logo surrounding me. And we are a theater and production. And we're also a multimedia company now with COVID that puts on productions that raise awareness and funds for different human rights causes and initiatives. I am now, because of COVID, actually, I am now an abuse and addiction recovery coach. So what that means is that I work with people specifically on their healing and really ensuring that a specific pathway towards their healing.
You do a lot. So I'm very, very happy to have you. Could you tell us a little bit more about each one of those things?
Both of them are really dealing with the human condition and what it is to be human. Theater is very much about what it is to be human. And the coaching practice that I take on is really about people who have gone through some serious trauma and what that actually does to the brain, what that does to behavioral patterns, and then how they can actually heal from that. So theater and entertainment can always be a very healing practice, I think, or it's very healing to watch theater. And I think many people have missed that a lot during this time. But it's also been a way to shed light on things. Often, if we want to learn about a particular issue or topic, we could read about it. But when we see a play about it, it can really hit home and hit on the heartstrings. And so what we've done with Ripple Effect is we will produce that play, put that out there, pull on people's heartstrings, and then right afterwards, we will say, hey, here's how you can actually make a difference in this area. So there might be an organization that people want to give to, or there might be a petition they want to sign. And whatever it is, we support and empower that.
That's really nice. What had you choose to go on this path with theater, then with coaching? And I know you said COVID, but I think there's more to it than that.
COVID kind of inspired, other things, or the time of, COVID inspired other things. But yeah, I started the theater company in 2009. I started Ripple Effect in 2009. And I had been a frustrated actress, just not really fulfilled and not really sure what I wanted to do with my life. And I did some personal development courses and learned a lot about myself. And what I learned about myself was that I was somebody who really wanted to take this art form and use it to really make a difference. And I really learned that that was my calling. And so I just started. I just started holding auditions. I started putting on productions. I had no clue what I was doing, but I just started. And then, here we are.
Okay. So how long would you say it took for you to get established, especially around the Ripple Effect?
I would say probably about 5 years. After 5 years' time, we put on an off-Broadway show versus an off-Broadway show. And we had an actual show with actual contracts for our actors and contracts for our stage managers. We were billed as an off-Broadway show versus So off-Broadway shows are typically in the category of what is called amateur. And being honest, I hate that word. So we became an off-Broadway company versus an off-Broadway company after 5 years. So in 2014, 2015. And I think that's kind of what put us more on the map. Definitely having press about us. We were compared to a Broadway show called A View from the Bridge when that was revived on Broadway. And the fact that we were compared to that show, that made a difference. So I would say about 5 years.
Yeah, of course. That was like a milestone for you guys. I congratulate you on that. What would you say for the journey that you are on? Because this is really about entrepreneurs and people really seeing that they can make a difference and still pursue their passions. And that's really what you're demonstrating here today by sharing your story. What would you say that along the way, right? Like 5 years is a pretty long time to establish something. What would you say something that helped you go through that? What were some challenges and some rewards around that path?
I mean, the big thing is that the company really is about community. It's not about me. There's a community of board members and a community of volunteers and a community of people who are fans of ours. So it's really been about the community more than anything. And then also I would say that it's been about really one big challenge was having a space, having a mailing address and having a space to work from. And once sadly, that space is now not there due to COVID, but we had an office space for about 6 years. It was a social impact co-working space in Chelsea, and it was awesome. And so that made a big difference. And then I think really having a handle and learning about marketing and marketing development, getting those people in those seats, having a handle over that's the biggest challenge. And conquering that in a way made a big difference.
Well, here you are. At this point, you have your company for about 12 years, right? And you're only creating more and more shows. Right now, I know some of the things that you created during COVID was online stuff, radio. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So when COVID hit, we realized we weren't going to be able to do theatrical productions for some. So we said, okay, how can we become virtual in some way? And I'm very fortunate. One of my board members works for a radio company. So we made some requests and we had 5 different radio plays. So a lot of people, I think definitely the Gen Z generation has no idea what a radio play is probably, but in the 40s, during World War II times in America, people would sit in their living rooms and they would just listen to the radio. We didn't have TV and people would just listen to the radio, and people would listen to radio plays. If they couldn't afford to go to the theater, we had theater during that time, but if they couldn't afford to drive to the theater or get to the theater, they would just listen to the radio and they'd listen to a play. And it was a really nostalgic, and it was a great experience for people during that time before we had television. So we decided, let's just create some old radio plays. And we put on a play that we were going to put up in theaters last summer, Colored Glass. And it was a play that actually took place during World War II time. So it kind of worked out perfectly. And it addressed the topic of immigration in this country. And it addressed what it actually looks like when there's a refugee and you want to bring a refugee over to the States, and what that process was like in the 30s. And in the 30s in America, it was a very, very difficult process. And it tells a story about how a Jewish woman wants to bring her nephew to America from Europe before World War II. And a bit of a spoiler, he doesn't make it over due to the bureaucracy and the policies of the United States at the time. But it's a beautiful story about how people just put forth grassroots efforts in order to save a refugee and bring someone over. So, so we did that. We also had a reaction to or responded to the Black Lives Matter movement with spoken word on the radio. We also had, just for fun, we did the Mars story. It's
yeah, actually, that's the one I
tackle-
think I listened to.
The whole I'm glad you listened to it, because the whole premise of that is there's something going on outside and we have no idea what it is, which is basically what COVID was like for us in the very beginning. Like last year, March and April, it was like, what's going on out there, you know? And I think now we all have a bit of a grip on what it is, and we wear masks and we know we have a process to it. But definitely the first couple of months, it was like, you know, everyone, it was anyone's guess, really. So we tried to just bring some lightness to it.
So now I would like to touch base a little bit around your coaching, because it is about healing, and you did touch base on how impactful COVID has been, and it still is for many people. Could you give a little bit more about how you became a coach, on all of that? Because what the area that you really touch with your coaching, I think, is a very, very sensitive area for most people. We don't really know how to help someone in that kind of situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I lost all of my employment. My day job was that I was a travel guide, and I lost all of my employment COVID. So then I thought, well, it was time for a career shift. So my career shift was, I did a lot of research, and I found a program that trains people to coach and trains people to be abuse and addiction recovery coaches. And in the process of getting certified, I went through my own healing and my own journey. So a lot of it is inner child work. And so some people might be really familiar with that, and some people might not be. But it's this process of just allowing whatever, we all have an inner child, and we all have childlike reactions and instincts to things. But we're taught as we grow up to suppress that child, or to keep that child under wraps. And when people have been through some serious trauma or some serious life events, what's really is to allow whatever reactions that are there to be there, and also to be a parent and to be an adult to that child. Because a lot of people who have had issues with addiction is 90 to 95% mental. It's very little about the physical aspect of it. So for people who have had issues with addiction, or I should say struggle with addiction, they didn't go through, for the most part, the proper development process. There's certain developmental aspects of our brain that happen at different stages of our lives. There's our life when we're 2, and it's the terrible 2s, and we say no all the time. Well, it's actually appropriate. We might not like being around 2-year-olds, but it's actually appropriate for a 2-year-old to say no, because they're learning autonomy. They're learning about making decisions. They're learning about what it is to make a choice and say no to things. And that's a good thing. We should learn to say no to things. And then when we're teenagers, we are rebellious. That's actually appropriate. It's a developmental process that we're supposed to go through. But if there's any abuse in childhood, then all of those developmental stages won't be gone through. They won't happen. And so later on in life, people will carry out their inner child, or their inner child will be the dominating force of their life when they're adults. So they're basically adults who are children or who are teenagers, which is why addiction continues, because that healing just never took took place. And so
Yeah.
it's a very big process of ensuring that they're actually their own parents to themselves, and that they actually tend to the stages of development themselves, so that they get that they are whole and complete and they are enough. And that's when they can really recover powerfully.
Right. Next part in I know we don't have that much time, so I'm just trying to get as much to make the best out of this time that we're together. I wanted to ask you, what would be an advice that you would give to an entrepreneur, someone who is passionate about something, and it's not easy. Like, one of the challenges that I came across in 2020 is, as an entrepreneur, for example, you don't automatically, like, you pay taxes and everything, but you don't what's it called, the right word, you're not eligible for unemployment. So that's like a very, very challenging thing, right? Like, for anyone that goes into start a new business, which is really what we need. We really need new businesses. We need people to challenge and to do things new way. That's why we have Uber today, that's why we have Amazon. That's why we have all these new things, because people were able to start something new. So from your perspective, since you are somebody who really has put all her energy, like 5 years is not a short time. I would probably not say it's super long, but it's still quite a long time for you to start seeing the fruits of your work. And yeah, what would some advice be for an entrepreneur?
Be willing to fail. Know that you're going to fail. I'm so sorry, but just know that you will. And know that you're mean absolutely nothing about you, and nothing about your passion, and nothing about the success that you will have later on. And I know, it sounds cliche, but people are like, just get back on the horse, and true success comes from failure. And, I know those are some pretty cheesy quotes out there about that, but it is the truth. I've had lots of failures in both of my companies. And in endeavors, and it's those times, and it's look, just being straight, it's not easy. Sometimes all you want to do is like crawl into a hole and cry and never talk to anybody ever again when you have but it's those moments when we get back on the horse, that is incredible personal growth, and that's also incredible growth for whatever your passion is. And just know that, at least for me, we tend to take our failures and our criticisms to heart way more than our acknowledgments and our successes. So it's really important to be just as present and just as receiving of acknowledgement. Like, do you can. Oops, I lost you. Sorry. Okay. Do everything you can to receive acknowledgement, and to receive being proud of yourself, and to receive the gratitude, because people will thank you. So do everything you can to actually be present to that and to receive that, so that the criticisms and the failures aren't so brutal.
What would you say is your support? The community, I get that you said you have a community within your organizations that you have created, but outside of that, when that fails you, when you can't rely on those people and you need outside help, what is it? What are some things that are supporting you and helping you to go through those moments?
I have some wonderful friends who are involved in personal development. I have a wonderful family who supports me and believes in what I do, and I'm very grateful for them. I have a wonderful partner who supports me and believes in what I do. And so I've been very fortunate, but also I've been very pretty picky and meticulous about who I surround myself with, but I surround myself with also highly motivated and highly conscious and aware people. And very important.
Okay. And last but not least, what what are your plans and the goals for it this year, or maybe a little bit further ahead? Like, what do you see yourself with both Ripple Effect and your coaching?
Yeah. So with Ripple Effect, we're going to do one more Zoom play, and we're actually tackling the issue of mental wellness this year. It's been a big issue of COVID-19. And we're doing a play called Every Brilliant Thing. And it's a one-man show, and it's a lot of audience interaction. So we're going to make that work on Zoom, and I'm very excited. But it's a play that is about a man whose mother committed suicide. And in that talks about all the reasons, every brilliant thing, like all the brilliant things in the world that are worth living for. So it's very poignant. It's very funny, actually. It doesn't seem like it would be funny, but it's actually a very funny play. And there's a lot of audience interaction that's very funny. And it's very poignant and beautiful as well. So we're also planning a film having to do with PTSD, and we're raising funds for that film now. And the coach, my intention is to teach 2 or 3 classes per week with a roster of about 100 students, and have hundreds of people who have been through horrific trauma really heal this year.
Okay. All righty. And last question for you. Where can we find you on social media? Do you have a website? Anywhere that you're particularly more active on social media?
Yeah. So the best thing, Ripple Effect Artists on Facebook is a really good place. So it's just Ripple Effect Artists, our page. So facebook.com/Ripple Artists. And then rippleeffectartists.com is our website. And then I actually am still building up my coaching website, but Arcs to Freedom is that program that I went through. So yeah, those places too. And then you can look at, I'm an actor as well, and it all kind of ties into Ripple Effect, but jessiefahay.com is me. So that's it. If I can, you can. You have one life. Do it.
Thank you for being with me for yet another fruitful talk. And if it was valuable to you, please subscribe and write any comments you'd like below. I would love to hear what you think.